What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the Call of Duty Blackout beta. I just spent the last 6 hours playing it, and I can honestly tell you that I'm both very confused and outright amazed by what I'm seeing. Here's the thing though, this new mode is only one part of what Black Ops 4 is going to be when it finally comes out, and so something about this definitely feels like it was designed by a much smaller team. In many ways, this sorta has the same vibe of the iPhone. Yes, that sounds weird, but bear with me for a second. I am talking about Apple's famous cellular gadget. You see, when the iPhone came out, it didn't really do anything original. All the technology that was in it, from the touch screen to the MP3 player, was already on store shelves. And yet, Apple found a way to make this existing stuff feel original by actually combining all the coolest stuff that they liked into one package. And this is really exactly what Treyarch must have done with their dev team here. Blackout is a battle royale game, much like I'm sure you've seen before, but with tons of flavor injected into every single section of it. It has cool aspects to the map, all sorts of weapons every single place you can possibly look, and actually combines some crazy parts of multiplayer like zombies. So let's break down what this actually is. In case you've never played a battle royale game, they all exist on the simple concept of a giant group of players all jumping out over an island, parachuting in, and then trying to scrounge for weapons and armor until only one person remains. Being the final survivor requires two things: tons of luck and tons of aiming, because you need to be quick on the draw, but also very skilled at trying to scavenge every single piece of the supplies you can possibly get to make sure you're better equipped than the foes you come across. Now, the first thing I really want to dive into is the map itself, because this is probably the thing that really kind of shocked me, because it's actually built with so many pieces of older multiplayer maps from throughout the entire Call of Duty franchise, from the giant mansion, from early Modern Warfare, to all sorts of crazy spots that just seem like they're redos, like the older map they had that showed the giant downed plane in the center of a giant valley. They put that in the middle of a laboratory and just basically slightly repainted it so it looked original while also combining it into a big open space. Now, what's cool about this is it really makes it where as you're trying to get in firefights through here, you can already see the thousands of hours of refinement that went into these little sections. If I parachute into a big courtyard that has all these shipping containers from a map that I already know and love, it's kind of awesome to kind of go back through it, but in this more serious setting where one shot misplaced could mean my end. Now, something else about this is, while you're trying to actually scavenge around, you may stumble into some of the weirder stuff, which is that these maps are actually far more interactable than anything in any other battle royale I've seen. Like, there is an elevator in the one spot. If you go to this construction yard, there's actually a spot where you can take an elevator up to a high up floor, and at one point, me and some friends actually went to the roof of this half-completed building and sniped down off the top of it as eventually everything shrunk in around us. And yes, we did die, but it was cool that that was even possible. Here's actually where you can run into zombies as well. I feel so blown away that I can even say this, but certain areas are actually based on zombies maps, and I wasn't able to figure out what ends up summoning them, but at one point, me and my buddy Spawnwave were just kind of cruising along through this crazy asylum when suddenly I saw a bolt of lightning come down and strike this lab, and all these zombies started springing up out of the ground, and they were really tough to kill. It's not like they could just be stabbed once or just shot once in the head. We both ended up getting completely wiped out by these undead menace that we didn't even think would possibly pop up. Moments like this are so hilarious to me, and it's so cool to see so many different aspects of the entire Call of Duty franchise that many of us like, even if we haven't played the games in a long time, all just getting randomly glued together. Now let's talk about weaponry here, because this is something else that I think is really important, and also something that kind of caught me off guard, because it feels like it's an interesting mix of the loadout system that we already know and something that feels completely different, but sort of in the style of player-unknown battlegrounds. So if you haven't tried PUBG, something that made it really unique was the fact that it had a really in-depth inventory system that lets you open up a menu and actually drop all sorts of specific scopes on the weapons you liked, extend your barrels for better range, or put on a silencer, or extend the clip. And this was cool, but I always always thought that PUBG did things in a little bit too slow of a fashion. It was definitely one of those games that was 100% made to work on PC and later ported to the Xbox, and it never worked out super clean. Whereas here, they have developed a new system for equipping where if you want, you can open up an inventory and actually manually move things around, but it's also possible to just look at items on the ground as you stumble across them, and it will tell you straight up whether it can be instantly equipped to your current weapon or even switch out an adjustment. So it's a lot better when I'm really trying to panically search for that next upgrade. It's cool to have my giant machine gun in my hands and see, oh, there's a scope, there's a red dot sight, or there's something that's going to make this a little bit more accurate for that next encounter that I need to survive. You're also going to be finding lots and lots of healing items. If you've been playing a lot of Call of Duty, you probably know that this franchise is definitely famous for having its eccentric self-healing mode, where soldiers are shot 80 times in the chest, and after taking 2 deep breaths, they're suddenly fine. Whereas in this, there is no healing except with items, and they don't heal you very much. It usually takes 4 or 5 bandages to go all the way back up to 150 health. It can go faster if you do something like find a bigger med kit or use a perk though. So let me tell you about perks, because this is definitely the one aspect that is kind of the most surprising, because it's something I wouldn't think that they would actually implement. So while trying to scavenge and find different equipment, you're also going to occasionally find different perks. Much in the same way that you would normally equip these before you go into a multiplayer match, these are now just something you stumble upon randomly in the houses as you go about. And these do things like make it where you can heal yourself faster, see equipment through walls, or maybe there's one called Paranoia that lets you get a special silent alert whenever somebody is aiming at you. That way you can actually have almost a sixth sense for if there is some sort of sniper that's scoping out the horizon and suddenly has a shot on you. All of these are really cool, but they're definitely well balanced because they're temporary. They only stay on you for what seems like about a minute and a half. And so because of it, even though you can equip 3 of these at a time, I definitely never had God mode. It was nice to get them, and sometimes they certainly helped me out, but even when I was playing with my buddies and we were communicating very clearly what we needed to do or where guns were, both of us would be really chopped to the gills with different perks, and we never just suddenly became the Terminator and were fighting off 10 teams by ourselves. All of this stuff is really combined in a nice effort to try and make it feel like a unique twist on Battle Royale without really stepping outside the boundaries of what's already been established in previous BR games. I will say that this game definitely has a big learning curve. I mean, if you're somebody who hasn't already studied all these different types of guns, you're certainly going to spend a couple hours just trying to figure out what does what, because from my count, it seems like I came across about 25 or maybe even 35 different weapons, and they all behave very differently, from several different types of sniper rifle to machine guns, and definitely different variations on the shotgun. And while this is all cool, I definitely think that it's something that I think early on, we're all going to probably have to stop and watch videos that explain the best guns for certain situations. I'll fully admit that in the past, I've pulled up videos that showed me some of the best add-ons for a particular gun I liked, just to make sure that I could be the most efficient killer as I possibly could be. The only other real downside of this game is that I definitely think that it needs to get bigger. I think it needs to have more players on the island simultaneously. Currently, there is up to 80 people at once, and it definitely has that PUBG pacing at times that I didn't necessarily care for. And what I mean by that is that in an average match, it's probably going to be between 15 and 20 minutes long, and sometimes 20 minutes of that is just you sitting in a corner until eventually one person stumbles across you. Even when I was looking for kills and actually running out in the open or driving a giant loud truck, I would not actually see that many people. There were times when I legitimately was making all the racket I possibly could just to get all the firefight footage I can possibly scrounge together, and unfortunately, I'd only get 3 or 4 kills in an entire match. Most of that time is still spent just kind of wandering around in what feels like empty cities. The developers have done some interviews reviews talking about the fact that they are currently internally experimenting with the idea of some sort of battle royale system that goes all the way up to maybe 115 people on the island, and that I think would really be best. It would be really nice to have these maps be as full as possible, because while it is true that many of us would all get shot to pieces as soon as we come down, it'd also be nice to have an entire area that is wall-to-wall enemy players that are aiming for you. These have just been my thoughts, though, on the Call of Duty Blackout beta, because it's really unique. I actually like what it's trying to do, and the fact that it just kind of takes the different pieces of existing games and shoves them into a giant pile of stuff that I'm totally down for. I hate to say this, but it feels weird that I'm actually sort of finally being won over to the idea of Black Ops 4. I'm probably going to buy it just to see what this is. Is it worth $60 without a single player? I guess now we're finally going to find out. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad, and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.